Journalist John Solomon says more evidence will emerge about Joe Biden's wrongdoing as vice president, including proof his son Hunter's company received a billion-dollar contract after traveling on Air Force Two to China with his father. One America's John Hines has more from Washington.
And the other thing, that kind of the kicker here, though, is that Joe Biden, in some sort of a public forum, I believe,
CSIS, yep,
he relayed this story very plainly.
He did.
Talk about what he said and talk about how that was very curious, because once again, it calls into question his sense of judgment, I think, because he's talking about this and he feels that there's nothing to hide. Or nothing.
2 years removed as the vice president and about 2.5 years removed from his threats to Ukraine to force the firing of General Prosecutor Shokin. Joe Biden gave a speech here to a foreign policy think tank in Washington, and he bragged about the anecdote of how he went to Ukraine, threatened to withhold the $1 billion in loan guarantees, and successfully got the prosecutor fired. The only thing he didn't mention was it was that prosecutor and his office that were looking at his son. But laying out in the public open is an acknowledgement. It is not in dispute that Joe Biden got the prosecutor fired. It is not in dispute that at the time the prosecutor was fired, that the prosecutor was investigating Hunter Biden's son, Burisma, and was making plans to interview the vice president's son. It's not in dispute that the vice president and his office knew that his son's company was under investigation by that prosecutor when all three of those events occurred. Those are facts that are in evidence. Now, Joe Biden has changed his story a little bit. Originally he said it had nothing to do with Burisma and he didn't know. Then he evolved and said, well, whether I knew or not, the reason I got the vice president or the general prosecutor fired was he was a corrupt guy and I wanted to get him out. Now, corruption in Ukraine is endemic. Why at that moment? One of the questions that needs to be answered, and I think we will be able to answer it in the next week or two, I think I'll be able to answer it in the next week or two, was there an effort to portray the prosecutor investigating Hunter Biden as corrupt so they could get rid of him, so they could make a public case to get rid of him? I believe there will be evidence emerging in the next few weeks that looks at the possibility that there was a campaign set up to dirty up this prosecutor Shokin before he could get to interview Hunter Biden. I think that will be some of the new news that will flow out of this investigation in the next few weeks. And remember, there's another part of this puzzle. Around the same time, Hunter Biden jumps on Air Force Two with his dad, goes to China, and he scores a $1 billion contract for he and his partner. There is an irrefutable body of evidence that Hunter Biden was traveling in the vapor trail of his father's vice presidency, collecting money in countries where the vice president had a significant policy role. Vice President Joe Biden's going to China because he has a big role in China. His son's on Air Force Two. He walks out with a contract. His father's the lead person on Ukraine. Within months of his father's appointment to that job, when Barack Obama hands that trust over to Joe Biden, his son's in that country cashing in as well.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.